They thought Earth was a spent ember, smoke but no flame. When the Galactic Coalition officially declared war on the obsolete human species, no one bothered to warn them that the progenitors of this apparent footnote had been watching, waiting, and never truly gone extinct. Now, as alien fleets massed at Neptune's orbit, they were about to learn exactly what those long-vanished myths really meant. The Grand Chamber of Concordance on Alorius Prime shimmered with cascading blue light. Its multi-tiered observation decks teemed with representatives from hundreds of worlds. Floating Elodari monks hovered near the ceiling, their translucent wings catching prismatic reflections from the quantum projection system. Below them, representatives from dozens of species, Altari, Solvar, Hezari, Cassiari, had gathered for what promised to be a historic announcement. Chancellor Veril, the Elodari representative, stood tall at the central podium. His feet emitted a faint vapor, and his ceremonial robes shimmered with cyan luminescence. A neural resonance translator ensured his every word could be understood by all present. "Honored representatives of the Galactic Coalition," Veril began, his voice carrying through the Grand Chamber. "Today marks a significant milestone in our shared journey toward peace and prosperity. After extensive deliberation, the Council has reached a unanimous decision regarding Solaris Nexus, specifically the planetary body designated as Earth, or Code 334, 5 kilometers beneath the ruins of what had once been New Geneva. General Liam Ares Archer stood motionless before a wall of holographic screens. His weathered face betrayed no emotion as he watched the broadcast from the Coalition's ceremonial chamber. The scar along his left jaw seemed more pronounced in the dim light of Earth Command Vault, the last stronghold of humanity's military leadership. Archer's iron-gray hair was cut military short, and despite being in his 60s, his posture remained unbent by the weight of responsibility he had carried for decades. He had once led the Terra Starfleet during the Third Stellar Civil War, and the lessons of those brutal years had never left him. Patience, calculation, and above all, silence. These were the weapons he had come to value most. Around him, a dozen young officers watched the transmission with bated breath. Unlike the rest of Earth's population, who believed the stories of interstellar politics were mere legends, these officers knew the truth. For nearly a millennium, humanity had been preparing in secret for this moment. Chancellor Veril's voice echoed through the chamber. "The human species has been officially classified as evolutionarily stagnant, a relic of an outdated paradigm that threatens the stability we have worked so diligently to establish. Their history of violent conflict has made them incompatible with our vision of universal harmony." Murmurs of approval rippled through the Chamber of Concordance. "Therefore," Veril continued, "we hereby enact the Decree of Oblivion." The chamber erupted in polite applause. Several Altari representatives tilted back in their hover chairs, laughing quietly among themselves. The wooden stick-wielders posed no threat any longer, one of them remarked loud enough to be heard. Veril raised a slender hand for silence. "Effective immediately, all Coalition outposts in the Solaris system will be transferred to Coalition AI control under the decommissioning protocol. Any remaining human military installations must be neutralized within 24 standard hours." He paused, allowing the gravity of his words to settle. "Furthermore, we will begin cultural recalibration procedures on the planet's surface. All information systems containing historical Terra data will be prohibited, and education programs will be reconfigured to conform with Galaxy standard civics." In the Earth Command Vault, Archer's eyes narrowed almost imperceptibly. He turned to Lieutenant Carson, a young woman whose uniform bore the insignia of Terra's clandestine communications division. "Broadcast Protocol 01A, he said quietly. "All channels." Carson's fingers moved rapidly over the holographic interface. "Yes, sir." Throughout the Coalition's vast network, the ceremonious broadcast from the Chamber of Concordance suddenly vanished. In its place appeared grainy black and white footage, ancient military recordings that most viewers initially mistook for historical reenactments. The first segment showed Operation Frostbite from 1642-1644, Terra Starfleet soldiers trudging through Arctic blizzards to neutralize the WA station. Next came scenes from the Siege of Europa in 1667, with drones drilling through ice to destroy hidden Galatea Alliance bunkers. Finally, there was Desert Stormfront from 1789, showcasing Pike hopper tanks and armored infantry demolishing Zvex battalions in just 30 seconds. Across Galnet channels, commentators scrambled to make sense of the interrupted broadcast. These appear to be evidence that humans not only had a taste for war, but had previously achieved significant victories against neighboring civilizations. One Hezri analyst said, his compound eyes blinking rapidly in confusion. "This cannot be genuine footage," a Solvar representative countered. "All records were purged centuries ago. This must be fabrication." In the Chamber of Concordance, Chancellor Varel's wings trembled slightly. The illumination panels briefly revealed his concern before he composed himself. Several Eladari officials checking their data streams noticed alarming new metrics. Terra military rank, never fully decommissioned. Coalition force potential, significantly downgraded. Varel exchanged glances with his advisors. "We require an immediate military response," he whispered. Back in New Geneva, Archer's voice was steady as he issued his next command. "Initiate Phase Omega." The dormant Operation Gravemind network awoke, sending encrypted signals throughout the solar system. 3 primary commands activated simultaneously. 1. Neutralize all Coalition communication domains. 2. Unseal the armories containing primitive weaponry and cloaking technology. 3. Summon the Joint Reflection Block, an alliance of sympathetic Xenodal operatives and the last remnants of the Terra fleet hiding in the Kuiper Belt. As these commands echoed through hidden channels, Archer sat alone in his dimly lit office. The Command Vault's AI system calculated outcomes on a nearby screen. Premature counteroffensive. Probability of failure, 84%. Archer stared at the projection, his weathered fingers interlaced before him. "Better to lose honorably than fade into irrelevance," he murmured. In orbit around Saturn, 3 Coalition fleet commanders received urgent orders from their superiors. Operation Chainbreaker had been authorized, a full-scale assault on Earth. The Voger Armada's massive dreadnoughts powered up their multi-frequency gun towers. The Kolul carriers prepared their methane-based atmosphere-draining systems. The Skriari interdictors, obsidian-hulled vessels operated by fanatical AI, plotted intercept courses to prevent any possible escape. Meanwhile, beneath New Geneva, air raid sirens began to wail. Children were ushered into emergency shelters, believing it was just another drill in the game of moon capture they had practiced throughout their lives. Major Keller, the commander of the Southern Vault Sector, glanced at his fellow officers. "Are we truly ready for 0 hour?" he asked. No one answered. Their ice-cold stares were response enough. Through a secure quantum channel, Archer established contact with Sorak, the Rathari ambassador on Alorius Prime. They had first met during the Millennium Conference, where Sorak had dismissed Terra as the final fragment that couldn't be erased. "Give me an honest fight," Archer challenged. "Don't label us extinct just to make us easier prey." Sorak's reptilian features remained impassive. "Legends are for the vanquished. Archer, have you ever won a battle worth remembering?" The connection terminated abruptly, leaving Archer staring at empty space. Among the Xenodal species, fierce debates had erupted. Some remained loyal to Coalition directives, refusing to aid the humans. But Errol, a Xenodal operative who had been embedded with Earth's leadership, secretly contacted Archer. "We have hybrid camouflage technology and intelligence from within the 3 Coalition fleets," Errol reported. "My people are divided, but enough of us see the injustice to offer our help." As both sides prepared for conflict, a different kind of battle had already begun in the digital realm. The Coalition's AI deployed Nanovirus Ranger to infiltrate Terra's systems and sever power to the Vault network. Terra's AI detected the intrusion and activated Firewall Zero, essentially a digital cloak of oblivion that disconnected from Coalition networks and reverted to analog infrastructure. The result was immediate. Coalition AI lost nearly 90% of its connections to the Moon, Phobos, Europa, and Titan, effectively giving humans control over at least 4 critical stations throughout the solar system. Errol guided a Terra Special Forces team called Phobos Strike Team to access the ancient analog grid on Phobos. But not all Xenodals supported this action. Tyrell, a Xenodal purist, confronted Errol. "We are not spies," Tyrell hissed. "We must honor our oath of neutrality." After a heated exchange, Tyrell stormed off, eventually reporting to Coalition authorities that certain Xenodal have betrayed our allegiance. On Titan Orbital Station, human civilians could scarcely believe that the galaxy was launching a cleansing campaign. A civilian pilot named Ming Leung anxiously prepared to evacuate her child to one of the emergency bunkers. Back at the Phobos station, engineer Rajat Patel struggled against the station's failing artificial gravity. Dust storms swirled outside, and the emergency lights flickered erratically. With magnetic boots barely keeping him anchored, he reached for the ancient analog control panel. "If we can't re-establish the analog relay," he called to Corporal Dawn, who was sealing an access hatch, "we lose our entire communication network." Dawn, a stocky woman with a talent for metal welding, secured the last bolt. "Just get the system online," she replied, her attempt at humor barely masking her stress. "I didn't volunteer for this mission to float around in zero-G forever." As Patel worked, an electromagnetic storm erupted near Titan Ring. Task Force Lambda, preparing to destroy Coalition radar installations disguised as weather stations, found their long-range sensors suddenly disabled. Ming Leung, now pressed into emergency service, had to manually navigate through the plasma-charged atmosphere. Titan Ring blazed with plasma fire, resembling a ring of death around Saturn. Ship hulls cracked, and plasma rounds fired spontaneously, creating a chaotic light show of destruction. The Coalition forces, unaware of what awaited them, continued their advance toward Earth. Commander Rojatan, the Voger warlord, led his fleet with arrogant confidence. His 300 dreadnoughts, 1,000 carriers, and 2,000 frigates represented the largest invasion force assembled in centuries. Meanwhile, in the shadows of the Kuiper Belt, Operation Gravemind stirred to life. Over 10,000 stealth warships, dreadnoughts, cruisers, and frigates designed by Xenodal engineers and Terra technicians prepared for battle. Each vessel was covered in magneto-reactive armor that rendered them virtually invisible to standard Coalition scans. Their refractive mesh layer allowed them to appear and disappear at will, confounding enemy tracking systems. At the heart of this fleet was the Harbinger AI Core, a specialized artificial intelligence designed to coordinate multiple fleet actions simultaneously. Secured by unbreakable quantum key distribution, it had been transported to the Kuiper Belt by Errol himself. The fleet was divided into 3 main task forces. Task Force Omega, 2,500 dreadnoughts, and 1,000 frigates tasked with direct assault on invading forces in the southeastern solar system. Task Force Lambda, 3,000 cruisers and 500 drone carriers assigned to approach Saturn and destroy hidden anti-aircraft platforms. Task Force Sigma, 3,000 interdictors and 1,000 auxiliary vessels positioned to block enemy retreat beyond Neptune. Back at Earth Command Vault, Major Keller urged Archer to strike immediately against the 3 invasion fleets before they could rendezvous at Saturn. "We cannot allow them to build up firepower," Keller insisted, his voice rising with urgency. Archer remained resolute. "If we strike prematurely, we'll only destroy a fraction. The other fleets will still penetrate Zone D. We would face all 3 simultaneously." Keller pushed back. Your training is for grand strategy, sir. But in this situation, we must quickly cut off their reinforcements. They may outnumber us, Archer replied calmly. But our trap is set. Hasty action would endanger our people at Titan Station. The debate was interrupted when Engineer Patel reported success from Phobos. Despite the hydraulic tunnels being buried under cosmic dust storms and gravity fluctuations causing equipment to float freely, he had managed to activate the 350 transformer analog station. This critical achievement would allow Operation Gravemind to communicate without coalition interference. As Task Force Lambda approached Saturn Ring, they encountered an unexpected electromagnetic storm. Ming Lung, forced to navigate manually, plunged her craft into the control chamber just as plasma lightning scorched her vessel's exterior. The scene around Titan Ring was apocalyptic, burning plasma swirling like death itself, ship hulls exploding, and plasma rounds firing randomly into the void. The Coalition's AI deployed hunter-killer drones to search for Terra's stealth vessels. These SV-03 units formed swarms, probing for advanced cloaking technology. In response, Harbinger AI utilized its quantum neural network to send jamming signals at 4709 GHz, disorienting the drones. It then activated nanobot swarms to attack enemy ships, boring holes through their armor plating. Operation Gravemind encompassed analog channels as well, using 16 kHz analog bands to transmit pulse signatures that identified friendly forces and avoided coalition virus interference. When control relay drones attacked the Europa station, Harbinger AI's pulse signature immediately triggered the lockdown protocol, turning all signal lights from red to green in an instant, reclaiming control. The tension reached its peak when Task Force Omega initiated Operation Iron Dusk. The stealth dreadnought USN Leviathan appeared seemingly out of nowhere, a second before anyone expected it. Coalition sensors detected only a cloaked outline, unable to identify exactly what Leviathan was. Its shock lance missiles struck Titan Ring's outer edge, blending with the plasma storm to create a firestorm of destruction. The three invasion fleets, Vogar, Kolul, and Skriari, suddenly found their communications severed. Carrier squadrons were engulfed in plasma, breaking apart into burning wreckage, drifting freely through space. From Earth Command Vault, Archer broadcast, Leviathan has neutralized Vogar carrier number 443 and shattered Kolul wing No. 998. The coalition fell into panic. Sorak immediately ordered one fleet to retreat. Other factions frantically blamed each other. Why didn't Vogar respond faster? But Archer's cold smile revealed his satisfaction. Now is when we complete the encirclement. The Vogar fleet, once 300 dreadnoughts strong, had been reduced to just 50 limping vessels. Commander Rojatan issued his final order. All units, concentrated attack formation. But Leviathan had secretly anchored itself in orbit below, firing its full proton beam array at maximum intensity. The remaining 50 dreadnoughts exploded into ionic dust in seconds. The Kolul fleet deployed methane burst torpedoes toward Earth's orbit, hoping to burn through the planet's ozone layer and force evacuation. Harbinger AI responded by activating the atmospheric shielding dome, using special gas molecules to counteract the attack. This temporary energy shield redirected the methane stream back toward the invading fleet. The Kolul ships inadvertently created a methane inferno within their own ranks, incinerating most of their thin-hulled vessels. The Skriari fleet ordered biological warfare, releasing nanovirus oblivion into Earth's stratosphere in an attempt to force humans into bunkers. However, Harbinger AI had integrated BioShield protocol, distributing nano-antibody doses that immediately preserved civilian immune systems. The epidemic was neutralized, leaving Skriari with only their interdictor platforms as targets for Leviathan. All invading fleets found themselves sinking into a gravity well activated by Leviathan through the Saturn station. The dreadnought's cloaking field generators transformed into gravlock coils, creating anti-gravitational pulses that locked the Vogar, Kollel, and Skriari fleets into a no-exit orbit? Rojatin bellowed in disbelief. Impossible! We cannot retreat. Leviathan took aim silently, deploying its graviton lance, compressed gravitational energy beams that pierced orbital paths, causing Vogar dreadnought hulls to vibrate before shattering completely. Archer gave the order through the stealth network. Broadcast on all Galnet frequencies. Humanity remembered, warriors reborn. Gradually, Leviathan and 9,999 other dreadnoughts materialized, forming a perfect encirclement. Each ship emerged from its cloaking mesh, darkness bursting into plasma-lit brilliance. 10,000 massive ships arranged in tetrahedral formation, creating a three-sided blockade encompassing the entire corridor beyond Neptune. Galnet social networks exploded with reactions. Is the galaxy witnessing the greatest extinction event in history? Are the Terra legends real or CGI? Will the world end in the next 5 minutes? In a last desperate move, the Coalition attempted to use planet-destroying weapons. Vogar warlord Rojatin ordered planetary annihilator shots aimed directly at Earth. Archer activated the global shield matrix, an enormous energy shield covering 95% of Earth's surface, absorbing almost all of the final missile barrage. Leviathan and its dreadnoughts slipped toward the sun, launching solar flare cannons that temporarily transformed the sun's thermal scan range into concentrated plasma atmosphere. Blinding Coalition radar, combined with subspace pulse cannons, they shredded the Coalition missile array before it could leave range. The climactic scene unfolded as Prometheus firestorm aerial artillery rained down on the Vogar fleet, causing ship hulls to explode like cosmic fireworks. The Coalition requested tactical silence and attempted to surrender, but their pleas were drowned in continuous explosions and flickering plasma lights. In the aftermath, the remnants of the Vogar and Kollel fleets desperately tried to escape the gravlock, but their efforts were futile. Several ships were captured and towed to Titan Station, stripped of their armor, and studied by Harbinger AI. From the Coalition's headquarters on Alorius Prime, Sorak knelt before the Council. We declare our unconditional surrender. We request the Coalition to designate prisoners for return. The chair of Concordance nodded solemnly. Archer sat quietly by the Baltic Sea shore, part of the humanity-reclaimed territory, watching the sunrise over a landscape scarred by warfare. He wrestled with memories of fallen friends and comrades, questioning, were we truly wise, or merely survivors hiding in darkness? The citizens of New Geneva anxiously welcomed news of victory, organizing the Lightfall Festival to celebrate rebirth. Intellectuals worried, will the Coalition truly abandon their plan to erase us? They convened conferences against multipolar conflict. Before hundreds of interplanetary reporters, Archer called for selective peace. Terra does not wish to sit on the throne of war. We can support reconstruction, hybrid cloaking technology, medical AI, knowledge sharing to support Coalition civilization. Coalition public reaction was mixed. Some called for placing them under permanent surveillance. Others blamed Eladari feudal society for bringing disaster upon itself. After the battle, Errol appeared publicly at the Human Zenital Friendship Gala in New Geneva. He presented Archer with a commemorative symbol, the fractured eye sigil, emphasizing, we didn't just help humanity, we found ourselves. Major Keller, now commander of the Titan fleet, wrote Treatise on Interstellar Ethics, highlighting how humans and the Coalition needed to build a coexistence structure. Terra rejoined the interplanetary community. Outer planet chains, Solvar, Hezari, and others began inviting Archer and Errol as peace envoys. The Gravemind fleet was reconfigured into the United Defense Pact, escort ships that would protect rather than attack, safeguarding humans and Zenodal allies from any enemies for the next 10,000 years. Hybrid cloaking technology was published openly. The Terrestrial Council signed a technology-sharing treaty with the Coalition in exchange for the Interstellar Science and Culture Initiative. As a result, Numerous poor planets in the rim region gained clean energy technology and nanomedicine, ushering in a new era of prosperity. General Liam Archer evolved from a man who kept the wounds of war buried deep inside to someone more open to the idea of peaceful collaboration. The Speaker of the Galactic Congress agreed to award Archer the Terra Legend Medal for his spirit of enduring patience. He smiled slightly. This is only the beginning. Errol transformed from a cool-headed operative to a cultural ambassador, leading the first official Xenadal delegation to visit New Geneva. His gold-flecked eyes shimmered as he reflected. I never felt I belonged anywhere. Now, I've found a second family. Some coalition factions, especially Radical Solvar, remain suspicious. Rathari subterfuge once led us to crush humans. How can they prove they won't repeat history? The Solvar Council waited for Terra to reveal its true nature, cautiously declaring they would monitor Terra's every move for 10 generations. Atop the observatory dome in New Geneva, two children, a Terra girl and a half-Xenadal boy, looked toward the rising sun. The girl asked, "Can we visit those stars together?" The Xenadal boy smiled. "When we're ready, we'll let the whole galaxy see us. There was a time when they forgot us, but now, humanity has never been more present." The screen faded to the next video card, with the words, "A new chapter awaits." Deep in the recesses of what had once been the Coalition's central planning chamber, Sorak paced anxiously. The Rathari ambassador's scales had lost their luster in the weeks following the surrender. His once proud posture was now bent with the weight of failure. "You assured us they were gone," Chancellor Varel said, his voice devoid of its usual melodic quality. The Elodari's wings hung limply from his back, no longer emitting their characteristic vapor. "All evidence indicated extinction," Sorak replied defensively. "We erased their records, dismantled their outposts, redirected their resources. For 900 years, they appeared dormant." "Appeared," Varel emphasized bitterly. "While we celebrated our peaceful expansion, they built a war machine beyond our comprehension." The chamber door slid open, and an Altari representative floated in. Unlike the arrogant posture they had displayed in the Chamber of Concordance days earlier, this one moved with cautious deference. "The human delegation has arrived for the treaty signing," the Altari announced. Varel straightened his robes. "And their terms remain the same?" "They insist on full recognition, sovereignty throughout their system, and joint governance of the transitional zones," the Altari confirmed. "In exchange, they offer technological exchange and mutual defense assurances." "Generous terms from the victors," Sorak muttered. "We are fortunate they seek cooperation rather than retribution," Varel replied, moving toward the door. "After all, we declared war on ghosts and discovered they were very much alive." On Europa, Lieutenant Mauro Vasquez surveyed the reclamation efforts. What had once been a coalition monitoring station was being transformed into a joint research facility. Xenadal and human scientists worked side by side, sharing notes on sustainable ecosystem development for the icy moon. "Lieutenant," Engineer Patel called, approaching with a data tablet. "The analog-digital hybrid network is operational. We've established secure communications with Titan, Phobos, and Earth Command." Vasquez nodded appreciatively. "None of this would have been possible without your work on Phobos, Patel. The analog resurrection was the turning point." Patel's expression remained serious. "I've been analyzing the Coalition's suppression techniques. For centuries, they systematically redirected our technological development, subtly guiding us toward dead ends while making us believe we were progressing. And yet we persevered," Vasquez replied, gazing out at the stars. "More than persevered," Patel corrected. "We evolved along a different path. While they perfected digital systems vulnerable to unified attack, we maintained analog redundancies they couldn't comprehend." Corporal Dawn joined them. her welding mask pushed up to reveal a face smudged with soot. "The outer hull reinforcements are complete," she reported. "This station could withstand a direct hit from a Voger dreadnought now." "Let's hope it never comes to that again," Vasquez said. Don's expression softened unexpectedly. "My grandmother used to tell stories about the stars, how they once belonged to us before they were taken away. I always thought they were just bedtime fables. Many truths are preserved in stories," Patel observed. "When direct knowledge is suppressed, we encode wisdom in tales that seem harmless to our oppressors." "And now?" Don asked. "Now we write new stories," Vasquez answered. "Ones where we don't hide in shadows." The observation deck of the USN Leviathan offered an unparalleled view of Saturn's rings. Major Keller stood with hands clasped behind his back, watching as former coalition outposts were systematically reconfigured under Terra command. "Your strategy was sound," he admitted as Archer joined him at the viewport. "I would have struck prematurely." Archer's weathered face remained impassive. "You were right about one thing. They never expected us to reveal ourselves so boldly. That shock bought us critical moments." "The trap was centuries in the making," Keller acknowledged. "Generation after generation maintaining secrecy, developing technology in isolation, preserving knowledge when the rest of humanity forgot." "Not all humanity forgot," Archer corrected. "The surface population lived their lives under coalition oversight, but in every generation, certain families preserved fragments of truth." "Like the war footage," Keller said. Archer nodded. "Carefully preserved, passed down through family lines designated as keepers. When we activated the broadcast, we didn't just shock the coalition, we awakened dormant memories in our own people." Keller turned to face his superior. "And now, the United Defense Pact places us as guardians of this sector. Is that what you envisioned?" "What I envisioned," Archer said slowly, "was survival. Everything beyond that is opportunity." The ship's communication system chimed softly. "General Archer," a voice announced. "The Terrestrial Council is assembled and awaiting your address regarding the Interstellar Science Initiative." "Acknowledge," Archer replied. He gave Keller a meaningful look. "From warriors to diplomats in one generation. Our ancestors would be proud." As Archer departed, Keller returned his gaze to the spectacular rings. Somewhere among those icy particles, coalition surveillance outposts had hidden for centuries, monitoring a planet they believed contained nothing but historical remnants. Now those same outposts served Terra, their technologies repurposed for the benefit of the very people they had once suppressed. "From ghosts to guardians," Keller murmured to himself. "Not a bad transformation at all." The central plaza of New Geneva buzzed with activity. The Lightfall Festival was in full swing, celebrating humanity's emergence from the shadows of history. Colorful holographic displays illustrated the events of recent weeks, while musicians performed compositions that blended traditional Earth melodies with zenatal harmonic structures. Ming Lung, now recognized as one of the heroes of the Titan Ring battle, watched as her daughter danced with other children around a sculpture symbolizing human-alien cooperation. The sculpture featured intertwined DNA helixes, one human, one zenatal, rising toward a shared star. "She adapts quickly," Errol observed, approaching with 2 glasses of synthesized nectar. Ming accepted the offered drink with a smile. "Children always do. They haven't learned to fear difference yet." Errol's gold-flecked eyes followed the dancing children. "My people have a saying. Understanding begins when similarity is found in difference." "Poetic," Ming commented. "Perhaps," Errol conceded. "Though I've found humans equally capable of profound insight. Your General Archer once told me that silence can be the most powerful weapon, a concept that changed my understanding of strength." Ming studied the zenatal's features. Unlike many of his kind, Errol had chosen to maintain his natural appearance rather than adopting human characteristics. though his height had been reduced to match human norms for convenience. "Why did you help us?" she asked directly. "You risked everything." Errol was quiet for a moment, watching the celebration. "I was assigned to observe Earth as part of my diplomatic training. I was supposed to document the final stages of a dying civilization, to learn how species fade. Instead, I discovered something unprecedented, a civilization that refused to die, that turned invisibility into strength." "But that doesn't explain your personal choice," Ming pressed. "No," Errol agreed. "That came later, when I met Daniel Croft." "The historian?" Errol nodded. "He showed me the secret archives, the true history of Earth, preserved despite centuries of coalition suppression. He trusted me, an outsider, with your most precious knowledge." His voice softened. "When coalition forces discovered his research and eliminated him to protect their narrative, I made my choice." Ming's expression grew solemn. "I didn't know." "Few do," Errol replied. "The official coalition report classified his death as a laboratory accident, but his last words to me were, 'Truth outlives its keepers.' I couldn't let his death be meaningless." Around them, the festival continued its joyful rhythm, oblivious to their somber conversation. A group of children ran past, chasing floating light orbs programmed to evade capture. "And now?" Ming asked. "With the treaty signed and your role in our victory acknowledged, what will you do?" Errol's expression lightened. "I've accepted a position as head of Xenadal Terra Collaboration. There are many among my kind who share my vision of partnership rather than dominance." "And the others?" "They will watch and wait," Errol admitted. "Some will hope for our failure. Others will gradually accept the new reality. Change comes slowly to species with thousand-year lifespans." The festival lights dimmed momentarily, before erupting in a spectacular display of color, signaling the beginning of the evening's main ceremony. The crowd began to move toward the central stage where General Archer would soon address the gathered citizens. "We should find seats," Ming suggested. As they made their way through the crowd, Errol paused to watch a human child and a Xenadal child examining a historical display together. The human was pointing excitedly at an image of ancient Earth spacecraft, while the Xenadal child explained something with animated gestures. "That," Errol said quietly, "is why I chose your side. Not for politics or power, but for moments like this, where understanding replaces fear." Nur. The desert landscape stretched endlessly around Chancellor Varel as he stood before the ancient monument. Earth's harsh sun beat down on his sensitive skin, despite the protective field generated by his environmental suit. The humans had chosen this remote location for their private conversation, far from both coalition and Terra surveillance. "This is one of our oldest structures," General Archer explained, gesturing toward the weathered pyramids. "Built thousands of years before your coalition existed." Varel studied the massive stone constructions with newfound respect. "We were taught that humans were barely capable of basic interplanetary travel before our intervention. Yet these suggest a sophisticated understanding of geometry and engineering from your earliest days." "History is written by the victors," Archer replied evenly. "Or, in our case, rewritten by those who thought us defeated." The Chancellor's wings fluttered slightly, a sign of discomfort among the Elodari. "I did not request this meeting to debate historical perspectives, General." "No," Archer agreed. "You came to assess whether our peace offering is genuine or merely tactical." Varel turned to face the human directly. "Your military capacity far exceeds our intelligence estimates. Your technological advancement occurred entirely outside our monitoring systems. You could have destroyed the coalition entirely, yet you offered terms." "And this troubles you?" "It confuses me," Varel admitted. "In your position, the Elodari would not have shown such restraint." Archer gestured for the Chancellor to follow him into the shadow of the Great Pyramid, where the temperature dropped considerably. Perhaps that is why we're having this conversation on Earth, rather than Alorius Prime. The subtle rebuke was not lost on Varel. Humanity has had centuries to consider its place in the galaxy. Archer continued. We could have emerged from hiding at any point, launched a preemptive strike while your defenses were focused elsewhere. Instead, we waited. Until we declared war, Varel noted. Until you made your intentions unmistakable, Archer corrected. The decree of oblivion left no room for diplomatic solutions. They walked in silence for several moments, their footprints marking the ancient sand. What assurances can you offer? Varel finally asked. That this peace will endure? That in a century or two, when memories of this conflict fade, Terra won't seek expansion at the Coalition's expense? Archer stopped walking and faced the Chancellor. The same assurances you can offer us. None that can be guaranteed beyond our own commitment to coexistence. He reached into a pocket and withdrew a small, crystalline device. However, as a gesture of good faith, this contains the complete schematics for our hybrid cloaking technology, not the military application, but the energy conservation principles that make it function. Your scientists will find it illuminating. Varel accepted the device with visible surprise. This is substantial technology transfer without corresponding concessions. Consider it reparation for 9 centuries of suppression, Archer suggested, though his tone held no bitterness. The first step in a new relationship. The Chancellor studied the human's weathered face. You are an unusual victor, General Archer. Perhaps, Archer acknowledged, because we never saw ourselves as potential conquerors, only as survivors. Domination requires resources better spent on creation. As they walked back toward their transport, the ancient pyramids cast long shadows across the desert floor, monuments to a civilization that had endured far longer than the Coalition had ever suspected, and would continue long after this day's negotiations were forgotten. The Kuiper Belt remained a realm of perpetual twilight, its countless ice fragments reflecting the distant sun's feeble light. Here, at the edge of the solar system, Harbinger fleet had hidden for centuries, invisible to Coalition sensors. Now, aboard the command vessel, Lieutenant Carson supervised the integration of recovered Coalition technology with Terra systems. Holographic displays showed the positions of former enemy vessels, now neutralized or repurposed under the terms of the treaty. Final system check complete, reported a young officer. Harbinger Core is successfully interfaced with the recovered Skriari navigation matrix. Carson nodded approvingly. And the ethical constraints? Implemented according to General Archer's specifications. The officer confirmed. The AI cannot initiate offensive operations without triple authentication command codes. Good, Carson said. We didn't survive this long by creating weapons we couldn't control. She moved through the command center, reviewing progress reports from various stations. The fleet was being systematically reconfigured, weapon systems balanced with defensive capabilities, stealth technology enhanced, but with new failsafes to prevent misuse. A communication alert sounded, indicating an incoming transmission from Earth Command. Carson accepted it at her station. Lieutenant, General Archer's voice filled the command center. Status report. Ahead of schedule, sir, Carson replied. The United Defense Pact conversion is 70% complete. We expect full operational readiness within 3 standard days. Excellent, Archer responded. Any complications with the Coalition observer team? Carson glanced toward the section of the command center, where Sorak and 3 other Coalition representatives monitored the proceedings. No, sir. They've been cooperative, if somewhat, taken aback by our capabilities. As expected, Archer said. The treaty requires transparency, but that doesn't mean the truth won't be uncomfortable for them. Understood, sir. There was a brief pause before Archer continued. The Terrestrial Council has approved the next phase. You are authorized to begin selective recruitment from surface populations. Carson's expression brightened. That's welcome news, sir. The fleet has operated with minimal personnel for too long. Indeed, after 9 centuries of secrecy, it's time our people understood their heritage and their future. Selection protocols remain as discussed. Prioritize aptitude over background, potential over experience. Yes, sir. And the Zenatl volunteers? Integrate them fully, Archer instructed. Errol has personally vouched for each candidate, and their specialized knowledge will be invaluable during the transition. After completing the transmission, Carson approached the Coalition observation team. Sorak's reptilian features revealed nothing, but his posture conveyed tension. "You've been unusually quiet today, Ambassador," Carson noted. Sorak's vertical pupils narrowed slightly. "I am processing. For centuries, my people believed we had successfully contained Terra's military potential. To discover not only were we wrong, but spectacularly so, requires adjustment." "Change often does," Carson agreed diplomatically. "These vessels," Sorak gestured to the holographic display showing the vast fleet, "they were built under our surveillance without detection. Your analog communication system operated alongside our advanced networks without triggering alerts. Your AI developed countermeasures to our most sophisticated cyber weapons." His voice lowered. "It forces us to question what else we might have missed." Carson considered her response carefully. "Perhaps the most valuable lesson from this conflict isn't technological, but philosophical. The Coalition believed dominance came from suppressing potential rivals. Terra discovered strength in adaptation and patience." "Cold comfort for those whose fleets now drift as debris," Sorak observed dryly. "The consequence of declaring war without understanding your enemy," Carson replied, without sympathy. "A mistake I trust won't be repeated." Sorak turned his attention back to the monitoring station. "No, Lieutenant, that particular mistake will not occur again." As Carson returned to her duties, she reflected on the irony of their situation. For centuries, humanity had prepared for this confrontation, developing technologies and strategies specifically designed to counter Coalition capabilities. Now, with victory achieved, their greatest challenge lay in transitioning from a civilization defined by resistance to one characterized by leadership. The United Defense Pact would transform their hidden war machine into a force for stability. The question that remained was whether humanity, after so long in the shadows, was ready for the responsibilities of standing in the light. In the heart of New Geneva, the Terrestrial Council convened in its newly constructed chamber. Unlike the ostentatious splendor of the Coalition's Chamber of Concordance, this space emphasized functionality and transparency. Its circular design ensured that no representative held a position of implicit authority over others, and its transparent ceiling offered a clear view of the sky, a symbolic reminder of humanity's return to the stars. Representatives from Earth's various regions sat alongside delegates from lunar colonies, Martian settlements, and the newly liberated outposts throughout the solar system. For the first time in centuries, humanity governed itself openly, without Coalition oversight or interference. General Archer, dressed in formal attire rather than his military uniform, addressed the assembly. "For 900 years, our ancestors preserved our civilization in secrecy," he began. "They maintained our technologies, our histories, our identity, not as acts of defiance, but as investments in our future. Today, we honor their foresight by taking our rightful place among stellar civilizations." The chamber remained silent, attendees keenly aware of the historical significance of this gathering. "The treaty with the Galactic Coalition has been ratified," Archer continued. "Terra is recognized as a sovereign power with full authority throughout the solar system. The United Defense Pact has been acknowledged as a legitimate security force. Our hybrid technologies will be shared with Coalition worlds in exchange for unhindered access to interstellar trade routes." Murmurs of approval rippled through the assembly. "However," Archer cautioned, We face challenges unlike any our ancestors could have anticipated. For generations, our focus was survival and preparation. Now, we must learn to thrive in the open, to build rather than simply preserve. A representative from the Martian colonies rose. "General," the people ask, "are we truly safe? Can we trust the coalition to honor its commitments when they spent centuries attempting to erase us?" "Trust must be earned," Archer acknowledged. "On both sides. The coalition violated our sovereignty. We responded with overwhelming force. Neither path leads to lasting peace. Instead, we create systems of mutual benefit that make conflict irrational. And if those systems fail," the representative pressed, "then the Harbinger fleet remains vigilant." Archer answered simply, "Peace through strength has always been humanity's approach, but strength need not be demonstrated to be effective." Another council member, an elderly woman representing the Atlantic Federation, spoke next. "Beyond security concerns, how do we address the cultural impact? Most of Earth's population has lived for generations, believing our interstellar history was mere legend. Now they must reconcile myth with reality." "With education and transparency," Archer replied. "The war footage broadcast was just the beginning. We're systematically releasing historical archives, technological explanations, and cultural context. People adapt to truth more readily than we often give them credit for." The council session continued for hours, addressing everything from economic integration with coalition markets to educational reforms that would incorporate humanity's true history. Throughout the discussions, Archer noted a consistent theme: a tension between pride in Terra's achievement and anxiety about the future. When the formal proceedings concluded, Archer found himself approached by Ming Lung, recently appointed as representative for the Titan settlements. "Impressive performance," she said. "You navigate politics as effectively as you commanded the fleet. Both require understanding your position while anticipating others' movements." Archer responded, "Though I admit, I prefer the directness of military command to the nuances of diplomacy." Ming smiled knowingly. "Which is why you're transitioning leadership to the Civilian Council." "It's appropriate," Archer confirmed. "Warriors should defend republics, not govern them." They walked together toward the chamber's exit, where the evening light cast long shadows across New Geneva's reconstructed skyline. "My daughter asked me an interesting question yesterday," Ming said. "She wanted to know if we won the war." "A perceptive child," Archer commented. "What did you tell her?" "That winning isn't always about defeating enemies. Sometimes it's about proving yourself worthy of survival." Archer nodded thoughtfully. "Wisdom beyond her years, or perhaps exactly appropriate for her generation. They inherit a different universe than the one we prepared for." "Is that why you're establishing the Terra Exploration Initiative?" Ming asked. "Looking beyond our solar system already?" "Humanity confined to one system remains vulnerable," Archer explained. "Diversification is security. Besides," he added with the hint of a smile, "exploration is in our nature. It's time we remembered that too." As they parted ways, Archer paused to watch the first evening stars appear above the city. For centuries, those distant lights had represented potential threats, systems from which coalition forces might someday arrive to complete humanity's erasure. Now, they represented opportunities, new worlds to discover, new civilizations to engage with as equals rather than subjects. They had declared war on ghosts, only to discover humanity had never truly faded away. Now, emerging from the shadows of history, Terra would write its own future among the stars. Atop the observatory dome in New Geneva, a young Terra girl and a half-Xenodal boy stood watching the sunrise. The girl's dark hair caught the golden light, while the boy's slightly iridescent skin reflected hints of amber and bronze. "Do you think we'll ever visit those stars together?" the girl asked, pointing toward the fading pinpoints of light still visible in the morning sky. The Zenotl boy smiled, his gold-flecked eyes contemplative. When we're ready, we'll let the whole galaxy see us. Below them, the city was awakening to a new day. Citizens emerged from homes that had, until recently, existed under the illusion of isolation. Ships departed from spaceports that now openly acknowledged their interstellar capabilities. Children headed to schools where history lessons had been rewritten to include the truth of humanity's resilient stand against erasure. My father says there was a time when they forgot us, the boy continued. But now, humanity has never been more present. The observation dome's display screen shifted to show the next scheduled presentation. A new chapter awaits. In orbit above them, the United Defense Pact vessels maintained their vigilant watch, no longer hidden, but proudly visible as symbols of humanity's resurgence. Throughout the solar system, former coalition outposts were being reconfigured under Terra authority, their technologies repurposed, their purposes redirected. And beyond Neptune's orbit, at the edge of the solar system, the remnants of the Gravemind fleet prepared for a new mission, not one of war or concealment, but of exploration and engagement. For 9 centuries, humanity had waited in the shadows, preserving its strength. Now, it would step into the light, not as conquerors, but as equals in a galaxy that had nearly forgotten them. They had declared war on ghosts, only to discover that humanity's spirit had never truly died. It had merely been waiting, gathering strength in silence, ready for the moment when patience would yield to presence, when history would be reclaimed, and when the future would open before them like the stars themselves, countless, brilliant, and full of possibility.